Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope it shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace it shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love it shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Good morning and welcome to Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Reverend Joanna. So glad that you could be here and that we could all be together in community. Today is the second service in a two-service series dealing with denazification and cult reprogramming. So I think that you can see this service on its own if you weren't here last week, but after this service, we will make last week's service also available to you. And if this is your first time coming to Live Oak, after the service, we invite you to go to liveoakuu.org. You're going to see a bunch of links that may be helpful to you. One is if you want to get more information about Live Oak, you can click on that and we'll send you some information. If you would like to actually talk to someone after this service, we have a Zoom room set up. You'll see a link that says just for visitors, and we'll just have a couple of members there. They can answer any questions you might have and maybe even get to know you a little bit. While you're at liveoakuu.org, you can sign up for our weekly email newsletter, and that's going to give you an idea about all the things that we have going on during the week. Dating back to the Holocaust, when the Unitarians set up the Unitarian Service Committee in Europe to help those who needed help to escape, the flaming chalice has been a symbol of our faith. And so now we invite you, if you have a chalice or a candle near, to pull it towards you as we light our chalices together.
make channels for the streams of love where they may broadly run. And love has overflowing streams to fill them everyone. But if at any time we see such channels to provide, the very founts of love for us will soon be parched and dried. For we must share if we would keep this gift all else above. We cease to give, we cease to have, such is the law of love.
Good morning. I'm Carrie Krause, the Director of Lifespan Faith Development at Live Oak. I'm so glad you joined us for worship today. This morning's big idea is a story right out of our Universalist history. The story is called Muddy Children, Hosea Ballou. It's written by Janine Grossmeyer, and it's found in A Lamp in Every Corner, our Unitarian Universalist storybook. Over 200 years ago, in a small house, in a small town on the edge of a forest of very big trees in the state of New Hampshire, lived a small boy. His name was Hosea Ballou. Hosea, just like other children, liked to learn and do new things. He was always asking questions about what and why and how. And just like other children, Hosea liked to play. In the winter, he liked to jump into snowdrifts. In the summer, he liked to jump into the creek. In the fall, he liked to jump into huge piles of leaves. And in the spring, why, spring was Hosea's favorite season of all. In the spring, it would rain and rain and rain, and then Hosea could jump into the mud. Hosea, just like other children, loved mud. He liked it when it was soft and squishy, and he liked it when it was thick and sticky. If it didn't rain enough, that didn't matter. He would carry water to the dirt and create glorious mud puddles all of his own. He liked to poke sticks into puddles and see how deep the mud was. He liked to make mud pies and to build mud dams. He liked to jump in puddles with both feet really hard so that the mud splashed up high. So it splattered all over his brothers and sisters. He loved to step in puddles very slowly so that the mud oozed up just a little bit at a time between his toes. Yes, Hosea loved mud. Now you can imagine that not everybody in his family liked mud quite as much as Hosea did. His sister, who did laundry and scrubbed the family dirty clothes in big wash tubs, didn't like having to scrub all that mud off of Hosea's clothes, or off everybody else's clothes either. His older sister, who kept the little children clean, didn't like having to scrub all that mud off Hosea. But his sisters loved him, so they took him home and washed him and dried him and made him clean. Then Hosea's sisters went to his father and said, "Father, please tell Hosea to stop playing in the mud." "Hosea," said his father very sternly, "you should not play in the mud." "Why?" asked Hosea, because just like other children, asking questions was another thing he loved to do. "Because," said his father, who was one of the preachers in the Baptist church the family went to, "just as we try to live a good life, to be kind to other people, and to follow God's plan, we try to stay clean." "Yes, Father," Hosea said, and after that day he did indeed try to stay clean. But it wasn't easy. He stopped stomping in the mud puddles on purpose and splashing the muddy water everywhere. And he stopped making enormous mud pies, but sometimes the mud was just there. And then he had to walk through the mud to get across the yard to gather the eggs from the chickens. He had to walk in the mud to feed the pigs. And sometimes, when he was already muddy from doing his chores, he played in the mud, just a little bit, and got even muddier. His sisters, who loved him, took him home and washed him, and dried him, and made him all clean. "Hosea," said his father, even more sternly, "you must not play in mud." "Yes, father," Hosea said. He was sad because he had truly tried not to get muddy. Most of the time anyway. "Are you very angry with me, father?" "I am disappointed in you, Hosea, and I am a little angry with you." Hosea hung his head and kicked the dirt a little bit with his toes, and he dared to look up just a little and ask, "Do you still love me?" "Hosea," said his father, and his father didn't sound stern anymore. "I will always love you, Hosea, no matter what you do." "Even if I get really, really muddy?" "Yes." "Even if I get mud all the way up to my eyebrows and between my fingers and my toes and in my hair?" "Even then," said his father with a smile. And then he added, "I'll remember and I'll try," Hosea promised. And he did. He stayed clean most of the time anyway, and as he grew, he stopped liking mud quite so much. But he still liked to ask questions about what and how and why. "Father," Hosea asked when he was a teenager, "how can it be that our church believes that God will only let 1 in 1,000 people into heaven, even if many of those 1,000 people lead good lives?" His father didn't have an answer for that question. "Father," Hosea asked, "if I had the power to create a living creature, and if I knew that the creature would have a miserable life, would suffer and die, and then go to hell and be miserable forever, and I went ahead and created it anyway, would that be a good thing or a bad thing? And would I be good or bad?" His father didn't have an answer for that question either. Hosea had to find his own answers, so he read the Bible, a book with many stories about religious people and about God. He went to some Universalist churches and asked more questions there. At the age of 19, Hosea Ballou decided that he believed in universal salvation. Hosea Ballou believed God would eventually let everyone into heaven, good and bad. "How can you believe that?" asked his father. "How can you believe that God would let bad people into heaven?" "Because, Father, remember what you told me when I was small. I believe that even if God is disappointed with people or a little angry with them, God will always love them and want them to be happy, no matter what they do and no matter how muddy they are."
I am you are me. That's what I said. I am you are me. Don't you see? I am you are me. That's what I said. I am you are me. Don't you see? I am you are me. That's what I said. I am you are me. Don't you see?
Like
I
I'm over
am
here,
you are
and
me.
you're over there.
That's what I said. I
Something
am
between
you
us
are
that's
me.
greater than air.
Don't you
It
see?
seems like
I
I'm over
am
here,
you are
and
me.
you're over there.
That's what I said. I
Something
am
between
you
us
are
that's
me.
greater than air.
Don't you
It
see?
seems like
I
I'm over
am
here,
you army. That's what I said, I am you army. Don't you see, I am you army. That's what I said, I am you army. Don't you see, I am you army. That's what I said, I am you army. Don't you see, I am you army. That's what I said, I am you army. Don't you see, I am a part of you, you are a part of me, and so together we are one body. I am inside your head, you are inside my heart, and we fit together, perfect from the start. I am, you are me. That's what I said, I am, you are me. Don't you see, I am, you are me. That's what I said, I am, you are me. Don't you see, I am, you are me. That's what I said, I am, you are me. Don't you see, I am, you are me. That's what I said, I am, you are me. Don't you see, I am, you are me. That's what I said, I am, you are me. Don't you see, I am a part of you, you are a part of me, and so together we are one body. I am inside your head, you are inside my heart. We fit together, perfect from the start.
I am a part of you, you are a part of me, and so together we are one body. I am inside your head, you are inside my heart. We fit together, perfect from the start.
I am a part of you, you are a part of me, and so together we are one body. I am inside your head, you are inside my heart. We fit together, perfect from the start.
So, with what we can learn from people who have studied how to help people get out of cults, how can we help the disoriented? I think that the first thing we have to start with is looking at ourselves. Can we look at ourselves and where we are, and the fact that we have the ability to be able to do critical thinking? Can we look at that with humility and with gratitude? To realize that we didn't get here all by ourselves. Some of it may be simply that we were born with a questioning brain. Others may be that we were raised in families that encouraged this, or somehow we ran across a reading or a person that got us to be able to think in that critical manner. Can we have gratitude for that? And the humility of saying, you know what, I didn't get here all by myself. If we do that, I think it's going to make us a little bit more sympathetic towards those of the disoriented cult, to realize that they had different experiences and they were born with different skills and gifts, and that all conspired to make them who they are. The people who have studied what has happened over the last 4 years have even been able to pinpoint some of the things that would make someone more susceptible to this type of cultish manipulation. If they grew up with an authoritarian parent and admired that person, if they themselves were abused, much of what has happened over the last 4 years will feel familiar. And yes, it may be re-traumatizing, but for some people, that familiarity is something that they will gravitate to rather than run away from. So that's the first thing. Looking at where we are with some humility and some gratitude. Number 2, in helping those who are in the cult of disorientation, stay connected. You gotta. It's the only way that it works. It is the thing that all the people who have studied cults always zero in on, because it is the opposite of what cults want. Cults want to separate their members from any outside influences. That's why they encourage them to break off relationships with friends and family members who are not part of the cult. Because see, the thing is, the more they are exposed to someone who does not think the way they do, the greater the chance is that they will wind up putting something on their doubt shelf. Doubt shelf is a term that was coined by Janya Lalick. She is a professor of sociology and an expert on cults, and she herself was in a cult. And she came up with that term. She said that while she was in the cult, when she heard things that made her doubt what she was hearing from the cult, she didn't want to think about them. She just kind of tucked them back onto a shelf in her brain. And she says, though, but at a certain point, there were so many things on that shelf that it came tumbling down. And then she had to face them all together. With cults, it apparently is not one big thing that changes the cult members' thinking. It is these little stones on the shelf that slowly add up until finally the person has to face them. I am not saying that you have to stay connected to someone who is harming you in some way. But if you want to try and help someone, this is one of the things that we have to do. We have to stay connected. They have to be able to see you as someone who is stable and reliable and who continues loving them. So often, when someone is in a cult, what their family members will try to do is they'll try to use their relationship as the ultimate bargaining chip, right? If you don't leave that cult, then I'm just breaking it off with you. If they are genuinely in a cult, most likely they are going to choose the cult over you. And so the more you can keep that connection going so that they know they could return to you, they could choose you over the cult at any time, the greater the chance is that that will happen. Number 3, do not criticize the disorientation cult, not to the cult member. What happens with cults is that their very identity becomes fused with the cult. And so therefore, if you criticize the cult, you are criticizing them. That is how they are receiving that. I remember hearing this kid's story one time, and it was that the sun and the wind were having an argument about which one was more powerful. Maybe you've heard this story. And so they saw a man walking along wearing a jacket, and so they decided to have a competition. And so the wind went first, and it said, "This is going to be easy." And it blew and blew and blew with all of its powers. What happened was that the man buttoned up his coat and just held on to it tighter. Then it was the sun's turn. And so the sun simply acted as the sun, and it shone warmly. And so the person wound up unbuttoning the jacket and taking it off. This is actually a great metaphor for what we need to do with someone who is in a cult. We're not going to be able to argue them out of the cult. It just doesn't work that way. Our psychology fights against that. Our psychology, even us, right? If someone's trying to argue against something that we believe in, our tendency is to instead pull that jacket closer. So no, when you're talking with them, don't criticize the cult. What you do instead is number 4, you listen. You listen not for points to refute. You listen with an open heart, with curiosity, and you are listening for any little hints that the person might be kind of questioning themselves about some of this. And when you do hear those things, you don't jump on it like, aha. Instead, you just repeat it back to them. You mirror them. Oh, so you're saying you believe that Biden lost, but you're concerned about seeing all of those people go into the Capitol. And just be quiet. Just leave it there. The goal is to encourage as best you can the person finding their own little stones of doubt to put on their shelf. They're not going to let you put any of those stones on their shelf. They have to do it themselves. And so deeply listening to them means that they're the ones who are talking and they can hear themselves. And there's a good chance that they're going to hear something that doesn't quite add up to them. They may not let you know it right then. That's okay. Let them talk. You're listening, yes, with an open heart, but that doesn't mean that you agree with them. You don't want to do something that is going to continue to feed their delusion. So if they say something that you disagree with, it's okay to say, I'm not sure about that. But in listening to them, you may have an opportunity to help them pick up some of those stones of doubt by asking them some questions. And this is a hard one, because even with ordinary conversations, it can be hard to ask a question that doesn't come across as challenging. Anyone who's tried to ask a question of someone else through email or social media has probably experienced that, right? You simply ask a question like, do you like spaghetti? And it's heard as, do you like spaghetti? So let me say first and foremost, this is not an easy thing. It takes a lot of gentleness and a lot of practice. And frankly, if you're not at a point where you have demonstrated to the other person that you're happy to just stay connected with them and just listen, and you're not requiring them to change, let some time go first to establish that trust. And then here's the thing that you want to do, the experts say. You don't want to challenge in a way that will bring out a defensiveness. And you don't want to just state the facts, because again, that makes them pull their coat tighter. The metaphor that I heard was, don't point out that there's a fire. Instead, ask them, do you smell smoke? Because then at that point, they have to take the agency of figuring out what's going on. And I will say, if you come up with some good questions, be sure to share them with some of the rest of us. And lastly, be patient. It will probably take a long time. That's what these experts on cults say. They say we want to rush in. We're so worried about what we're seeing. We want a quick fix, but it usually doesn't happen. And for those who have been looking at what has happened over the past 4 years with an eye towards cult behavior, they say, prepare yourself. This could be like 5 years. That may sound too overwhelming for you. And I would say, this is not something that you have to do with everyone. You get to pick and choose who you are going to put this level of energy and love toward. There are people that I knew like back in high school. We were never really connected. I'm not connected with them now, but there are other people in my life who made voting decisions that I don't really understand. And it's important for me to stay connected with them and to leave a space where they can feel safe if they do change their minds. They can feel safe coming to me and knowing that I'm not going to ridicule them or say, I told you so. These things really do take time. When you read much of the work that has been written about denazification, what the writers will often tell you is that, yes, you did have a lot of things that happened immediately, some very tangible results of people being arrested, statues being taken down, etc. But that the denazification, the idea of we are going to remove this ideology from the country of Germany, that really didn't make the significant progress until the 1960s. And you know what happened in the 1960s? You had new generations coming up. And you had children and grandchildren that began asking their family members, what did you do during the Third Reich? During the last 4 years, it has actually been Germany who has looked at the United States of America with sadness and said, please learn from us. We are, of course, in a different situation. There are parallels between what happened at the end of World War II, but this is, of course, dramatically different. For one thing, the issue has been the people within this country, not from without. I encourage you to take a little time and consider whether maybe one of the ways that you can help love the hell out of this world is to love some of these people that are in the disorientation cult. They have been victimized too. Their whole understanding of reality has been damaged. Stay connected and listen. Oh, and another reason why Germany was able to become the thriving democracy that they became was because they established a strong welfare system to promote the general welfare of their citizens, which was a great alternative to authoritarian rule. Just a thought.
Spirit's long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every deed. By this we worship and are free.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is so good to be together in community, even if it is online. And I invite you now to join us for our fellowship time. It's going to take place in a Zoom room. If you go to liveoakuu.org, you'll see a link to that. And again, if this was your first time, if you'd like to get some more information about Live Oak, maybe talk to someone, if you go to liveoakuu.org and click on Just for Visitors, well, we'll see you in just a few minutes. May you go forward this week with a heart that is soft and open and ready to be there for someone who might be needing some connection from you. And may you also go forward with your wits sharpened enough for the discernment to know when it is that you need to set up boundaries for your own health and safety. And may you never forget that you are lovable and you are loved and you are not alone.
Soon the day will arise when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see